Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is SCC, and today we're going over the two games from Thursday and Friday night. So a bit of a late night video for me tonight, but I thought some interesting things happened, and I was actually able to get out to the Crows Power game. So I thought I got to see a bit more of the player movements and what you maybe see from the TV, which might be helpful in kind of talking about, how they played and where they played and how they scored. So let's jump right into it. We might also talk about how the team's shaping up and what the trades are going to look like, because it's probably changed a little bit since my last video. Got cold feet, but that happens, and I'm trying to play around with something to kind of see what I can do. But we can get into that later on in the video. For now, let's have a chat about this first game. So Port Adelaide versus the Crows, and the Crows got the win, which was very good as a Crows supporter. Love that. But I would have to say we played pretty shocking. Not shocking, but there was a lot of overuse. We handled way too much when we could have probably just got a kick going and got the ball downfield a little bit, which really could have helped us a little bit more, because sometimes we were just over handballing and trying to look for short kicks, and it just wasn't working. I think we just needed to attack a bit, and we didn't take our chances. In the third quarter, we definitely could have put Port away, but we didn't. But it didn't matter in the end. But it looked like it might when Port got that late goal, and really everything we'd done in the third quarter amounted to nothing. But that's enough about the game, and let's talk about the players. So, first of all, let's talk about Port Adelaide. So, funnily enough, and it was something we were talking about a lot, was the fact that playing Connor Rose in this game seemed utterly ridiculous, and I think it was actually the worst result for the Supercoach players who had him. And the reason being is because, if you didn't play, you got a loophole. We got good rookies, so we could loop, some rookies off the bench and still get a decent score in that position. I think that would have been the optimal choice. I don't think trading him out when we know it was a minor hammy, and it would preserve his price. So then you could reevaluate it in a week, depending on how he went. Instead, he played. He scored poorly, so he's going to lose a lot of money if you did keep him. And he's now, as of 5 hours ago, they've said that he won't be playing next week. So you're missing that game anyway. Where he could have missed this week, you could have got a good loophole, not lost money, and hopefully had him back the next. And I feel like everyone could see what was going to happen here. Even if it's a minor hammy and he does feel better, like, why are you risking it? Like, this is probably bigger for Port's season than what it's being made out to be. Like, losing your captain, losing a very valuable piece of your team for more than 1 week now. They have to go to Geelong and play Geelong. And it just seems like one of the strangest decisions in a footballing sense that we've seen in a while. I understand the showdown's a big game, but if you were telling me, Dawson was to sit out but then play the next week, I'd probably just take that rather than him injuring himself. And then, you're a player down, and that's what Port were, and they had other injuries as well. So yeah, really, really bad for people who held. I feel like if he got named, it's hard, right? Because he could have been fine. And he could have got a big score. So it's really hard to trade him out when he has been named. But, us as players looking at it from a, outside perspective, what a hammy is, like the injury is, realistically to me, like, it just says you probably should have traded, even though it's not necessarily the best call. It is the best call now, but it's one of those hard calls to make. So I've talked a lot about one player here, but I just think is utterly like a disaster for people who had Rosie, and hopefully you guys traded out if you had him. And if you didn't, you were in a really hard spot, because he's probably lost a lot of money. And also it's like, how long is he out? 1 week or 2 weeks? He might as well have been out 2 weeks now. Yeah. Anyway, going to it anyway, Butters played really, really well. Well, when I say really well, actually, I think that his score is overrating the game because I think that he did get a lot of contested possession and he did really, really break open the game in the first quarter. They were destroying us in the midfield. That's all I watched was Zach Butters and Connor Rosie and Ollie Wines just going through, and Horn Francis for that matter, just going through, getting the ball at will from the midfield, but not really having any connection with their forward line. And our defense held up really well for the Crows. But for me, I just felt like Butters butchered the ball way more than what this suggests. And it's quite annoying that, I understand a lot of contested possessions and that's how this game scored, but I don't know. I just feel like I watched Dawson take marks, Big Pat marks, and get nothing for it. And I guess, his usage is worse, and maybe he was lucky to get to this score as well. But I thought that Butters was, equally, he did some pretty poor kicks at pretty crucial times, and he also got probably lucky not to get caught holding the ball a few times. But that's probably a non-holder in me. If you're a holder, you're very happy. So take it and run. But, he had 33 as well. So, yeah, can't talk too much about it. But I felt like he was not as influential in the second half as what the points kind of look like and say they are. And the disposals, I guess, say they are. Wines, I wonder if anyone has held him. 22 disposals, but the 10 tackles is huge. And I think he's going to have a big midfield role now that Rosie's going to be out, and also it really doesn't look like the Horn Francis looks good, but I just don't think he's there yet. Like he drops out in portions of the game, and sometimes the pressure isn't there. But when he does dig in, I think he's going to be a really good player. So it's interesting. Wines is probably like their second midfielder now, and if you did have him, you'd be pretty happy. And it's interesting to see how these 500k players are playing out, high 400, low 400 players are playing out. But I think most people trade out of Wines, but if you have him, I reckon you can keep holding him because he's going to have a really good role, and he looks like he's playing a lot better than he has previously. Houston had his first game under 100, really got shut down in the second half. I'm not sure what the Crows did. I didn't really see it. He just it's more like they shut down Port Adelaide's running play, I guess. Maybe they transitioned through the back line, or was it Port just deciding to play a different way? Because I don't know. Houston was all over it in the first quarter or two, and then like after the half, he just didn't score. I think he scored 30 points after the half, and he had 60 at the half. So I was quite surprised to see the 93. I was quite surprised to see this is the game where Houston had his first score under 100, but you'll take it as a non-owner. Maybe we can see his price dip back under 600 at some point, although 93 isn't bad, so it's kind of one of those middling scores. As I said, Horn Francis, he looks really good, just not really there yet. Sweet. So Sweet was an interesting one, 74. So I went in with him on the bench emergency to loop if he went really well. I was going to trade out Meek. I'm now in the camp of holding Meek, which has put me in the annoying position because if Sweet went really well, I was kind of happy to trade out Meek, but Meek's break-even's 56. And the problem with it is the fact that now I can play Meek on field and take hopefully a higher score than the 71. 71 isn't bad by no means, or 74 isn't bad by no means, but it would be, you were probably hoping for a bit more from him. And he did have a rough go in it against O'Brien. O'Brien did fairly well to hold him down to the score he did. And Sweet has good matchups to come. So I don't think it's the worst thing, but I'm thinking personally, I'm just going to wait till Sweet has a good score because again, I can do the same thing and then trade Meek out after. See what Sweet scores. If Sweet goes really well, trade Meek. And it could also have to do with how Meek goes this week. If he goes like a 60 or 70, then his cash gen's gone anyway, and I might as well use the cash. But yeah, I thought Sweet looked all right. Just didn't get as much of the ball. And as you can see, Rob kind of beat him in the hit-outs a bit as well. And it looks like Port used Dixon quite a bit more, especially in the forward line. Going down from there, we've already spoken about Rosie, I guess. Burgoyne drop-off game this week. Really just couldn't do anything about it. And they got a few injury worries now with Georgiades also injured. And I think someone else came off late. Marshall looking like he's injured as well. And with a hard run coming up, it'll be interesting to see if Port blood any rookies. But I'm sure there's a few on the sideline that they'll be looking to get in as well. So on to the Crows. Saligo had a big match. Probably one of the ones that did try to do a little bit too much with the ball at times. Score definitely helped here by 5 frees, 4-1 free against. 10 tackles, huge. And 14 kicks, 14 handballs is great. The interesting thing to see with Saligo going forward, and I was hoping that he would be like one of those players that you saw glimpses of this, but then has maybe an average of 80, 90 going into next year, and that's where his real breakout is. So we can pick him up, but it looks like he's going to get a fairly decent mid-roll. Because if we go into the way like the Crows were playing, I was watching Dawson pretty closely because I wanted to see what this role was, and it seemed to me that in the first centre bounce of the game, it was Dawson led Crouch. But then going into, the second, third and fourth quarter, Dawson started on like a forward flank. And then Laird, Crouch, Saligo, and maybe Rankin at times would start in there. And that seemed to be the way they were playing Dawson. Now, yes, Dawson got some forward time, but I don't think it was a huge amount of forward time. It might have been five-ish minutes, because what would happen, and it was even when Dawson was playing in the midfield, he was kind of sitting off the back of the pack, kind of trying to marshal the way that the defense was set up and also where the forwards were, and kind of watching the play to then react to it as the ball moved. He did move behind the ball, but he was also a bit of a connecting piece as the ball went. I guess it's not necessarily the role you want, but I think it is also oversold how bad the role might be. Now, the other thing for the Crows was Port were bombing it forward a lot to not much in their forward line, and this saw that Worrell took a lot of marks, Michelini took quite a few cut-off marks, and even Keane was getting on the end of it as they were just missing Dixon altogether. So it wasn't necessarily, the best game for guys like Dawson and Laird who accumulate over time, because there was a lot of scaled points going to guys like Worrell and Michelini. Because Laird and Dawson were on 28 and 26 respectively, I think, at the half. It was like ridiculously bad. And Laird just built his game into it. He gets a lot of those close balls, right in the thick of it. Dawson sits out a bit more, and he took some big marks on the transition, trying to get it down the field when they were having to bomb it forward. So that helped scale up his score as well. But yeah, obviously the Crows are going to be moving around the centre, the midfield a bit as well. The other thing I also saw with Laird, and I was saying how I kind of wanted to pick him because the scores weren't as bad as what it was being made out Laird to be. Laird seemed to be playing like he didn't go forward and he wasn't going back. He was playing in the middle, and then he'd come off to the bench and he would swap with Dawson as Dawson would rest forward, then he would come off. Dawson would then come on as Laird comes off. Then Laird would come on and Crouch would come off, and then they'd repeat that movement. That was how it was kind of going. So Dawson would start out on the forward line. He would play there for 5-ish minutes. He would come off. Laird would then come off 10 minutes in. Dawson would come into the midfield. Then Crouch would come off and Laird would come back on. And that was kind of the rotation, with Saligo just playing more of the total midfield time, and then Rankin coming through the middle when they did swap Dawson to the forward line every now and then as well. So that kind of seems like the rotation I was seeing with the Crows midfield. Obviously, it's not the same that Dawson had last year, but as we could see as well, Dawson did float back a lot. Like he did set himself up behind the ball a little bit, trying to wait for it to come out the pack, especially when he was playing in the middle. And I think at times there was a few unlucky balls that he missed as well. There was one where they had a breakout going forward. He'd called Fogg to run up and get the ball so he could drop off Lockie Jones. And it just didn't work out. Fogg missed the kick. Otherwise, Dawson was running into an open 50 with the ball. And, stuff like that goes your way and it really helps as well. And he didn't kick a goal this week. So overall, got a lot of the ball. The usage was once again poor, 54%. If that's 70, this is like a 110, 115, and you're not worried about it. So, this was going to be a kind of hardish scoring game. He's got Brisbane next week, and then it really opens up. I think this keeps people off him, which is good for those of us who have him. It's about 15, 16% of the comp now. And his price will probably be about 580 next week. So probably with the 90s in the system, we'll keep him away from him. But I'm happy to hold him. And I'm actually still thinking about Laird, to be honest, as well. Rankin, great game for him. 3 goals again, helps prop up that score to a 93. And the late goal, obviously helped with that as well. He was on like 70 at 3/4 time, so a 90 was pretty manageable from there. So much holding off the ball. Like I just watch, like Burton literally couldn't keep with Rankin. He's just sitting there bear hugging, holding him as he goes to the throw ups on like a forward flank and stuff. It's pretty frustrating to watch. Obviously, I focus on the Crows players a lot more than the poor players, but it just seemed to be like Horn Francis was doing it a lot as well. They just hold players so that they can't break away. And to the other side, the Crows players, for example, weren't matching up Butters well enough as well. So if you've got midfielders going against the Crows, you got to think about them for a VC because Butters was allowed to do whatever he wanted. And if his usage was a bit better, this could have been a lot better. I was literally sitting there going, why is no one on Butters? He's literally left there at every, center bounce or throw up to just run out he wants. Someone will get in like Wines, will get in under, get the ball out. 3 players will go to Wines. He'll just know where Butters is running out to. They'll get a handball out to him and Butters will run and get the clearance. And that was pretty much what happened the whole night. And it's why they dominated us so well. From a midfield perspective, I feel like they were pretty on top in the midfield. Maybe not later on, but definitely early in the game. Keane, so he's probably the next one that's probably relevant here. 72 is not bad, but he played a very big key role on Dixon. And that really didn't help him with his scoring. Couldn't really float off and get as many easy marks as he would and has before. Otherwise, only other guys here that are really relevant for Supercoach is Dan Curtin. He was subbed out. Looked pretty good. Thought he was pretty composed. Like when he got some of the ball early, he used it pretty well and didn't look like he was like rushed. I think I've seen some things with people going, oh, aren't West Coast, so happy they got Reid instead of Curtin, which obviously you're very happy you got Reid, right? But I think judging Curtin based off one game is also not like relevant because we saw how Reid played his first couple of games. You got to let players build into it. And I thought it was pretty good for a guy who's, coming into a back line in a big game. It was a showdown. Like it's a pretty big game for them. And I think he's going to be really good. But I'm not sure about him being a rookie because as we can see, he got subbed off. And I think they'll look to do that a little bit as they settle him. But maybe he'll get a bigger role. Maybe it was just this game. I think it was kind of hard to see him because Worrell and him and Michelini look very similar with their hairstyle. But apparently he did a pretty bad kick that nearly turned the game in the last quarter. But I thought from what I saw, he looked pretty good personally. So yeah, that's like 20 minutes just on the Port Adelaide game. I was actually at the game, so I got to see a lot more of the run of the game. And I think the Dawson stuff's pretty important because a lot of us did pick him or might still be thinking of picking him because, there are a lot of players over 600 at the moment, so you might be looking for a bit more value. So that's why I spent a little bit of time here. But And I'm obviously a Crow supporter as well, so I do watch them a bit more heavy, but that's what I saw from that anyway. And it was just good to get another showdown win and actually get our season back on track. Only really one game out of the 8 now, which is good to see. So coming on to the probably just as well, sorry, I shouldn't say probably just as big. It was bigger from a crowd's perspective. And man, it's good to see. I don't think we've seen Collingwood and Carlton be this good for like at the same time for like what 15 years, surely. Like even when, you know, Betts and Co were at Carlton, they just never were as good as Collingwood. I don't think. I think, and there was never the feeling, I think, that there was in like this game. And yeah, if we start off with Collingwood, because really there's not that many players that we really focus on here, but Nick Dacos, what a star, man. You know, it's funny, I was focusing on Walsh a lot because I was getting annoyed because Hewitt was sat off in the scaling that was occurring. And I was like, whoa, if Hewitt could be on, he'd get some good scaling here, but he wasn't on, so that was annoying. But anyway, and I watched Dacos on Walsh go for that last ball, and Walsh was following, and I'm like, okay, Walsh is on Dacos now, trying to shut him down. And all of a sudden, he lost him as Dacos went around the pack, ran through, got this ball, and I was like, oh, he's kicking a goal here, and that's what he did. It's just like crazy to see, you know, how fast Dacos was, because it was just like that. And I think it does bring something onto Walsh, because I thought I saw him kind of moving his knee a little bit sorely, and he did drop off in the second half. He wasn't getting as much of the ball. Like a lot of his disposals also came from like Hewitt, digging out handballs to him, as well. So I don't know. It was a bit of an interesting one with Walsh, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But going down Collingwood now, I'm trying to think of who else is really relevant. There isn't really much here that we're really looking at. The only one that I can think of that might be interesting, and it's if he's still a mid forward, is Lipinski. But I haven't really kept good track because we're really trying to figure out what we're going to do. So he's still a forward mid, 404k. The break even was 50, so he's going to go up like 30k, so 430k. What's he been averaging for the season? So he's gone 87, 56, 160. Yeah, this is up and down. So we can't really go Lipinski, but I thought it was an all right game for him. He seemed to be around it, but I think it's just the same old Lipinski we're seeing there. With regards to scoring, but otherwise with Collingwood, I don't think there's many other players we really look at to pick, and you can see why, because Dacos goes 150 and then it's Scott Pendlebury on 106. Scott Pendlebury is so good. It's going to be like a weird time when he does, finally retire, because he's, most disposal getter ever in the game. And he just keeps on keeping on. He's just so very good. Actually, Lockie Sullivan, he's an interesting one. He was very lively, kicked a goal with his first kick coming on from as the sub, and he only had 43% game time, and he scored an 75. I feel like he's definitely going to get another game. Whether, especially with McCreary injured now, I don't know what the injury was exactly. I remember hearing about it. It was a knee to the face, so it was concussion. Yeah, I thought it was concussion, but I didn't want to say it. McCreary's out for at least a week, but I thought he looked really good, Lockie Sullivan. So, a real impact player who really wanted to get in and amongst it. Obviously, playing for an AFL career. So, be interesting to see if he gets some more chances. He should be a 102k, I would say. I don't know why I closed that. Should be a 102k, I would suggest. Sullivan. Yeah, 102k mid. So in another week, we could be looking for a little downgrade option there. So we could be one to keep on our radar, because a 75 in the system would be nicer in the second week, but he can score another good score like that. He's probably the next one to jump on after some of the guys this week. So that is good to see. Moving on to Carlton. interesting game. But Nick Newman was cleaning up everything. A real intercept marking, big intercept marking player. Was getting a lot of the transition ball for them. They were looking for him to move that ball through their midfield from the back line. He was getting kickouts. Obviously, no Saad, no McGovern helps that. And probably one of the players that's been underrated, I would say. Let's have a look at Newman and see what he's been scoring. Season stats. I would have thought it's been half decent. It's just, yeah. So one really bad game, kind of all right, not really great otherwise. But I think we've seen an uptick because GWS. That's probably the first game where Saad and McGovern didn't play, which lines up with this Adelaide game, and then after that he had Geelong. But yeah, not as underrated as I thought, but he had a huge game tonight. And Pitnet also had a very big game in their ruck, which was seems to be adding a bit of life to their team. Having him in there rucking also with De Koning, and it was good to see Hewitt score above Walsh. So this was actually late scaling. So Hewitt sat on the bench for the last 3 to 4 minutes of the game, and the 71% bloody game time is really annoying. If he could get up to 80, he's probably like a 120 player, but he's just not getting that game time, which is time on ground, which isn't great. And the 98, he was on 93 at the end, and he got scaled up to 5 points, and Walsh was on 98 and got scaled down to 91. So it's a big swing in points. And I was looking at, I couldn't believe the ownership was so high on Walsh's. 38% of the teams have Walsh. And I'm surprised by it because of the injuries. He's had back injuries, which tend to be injuries that continuously flare up. Like, they're not once-off injuries, and they can be really hard to overcome for players. Now, to his credit, he hasn't looked like he's been hampered by it. But I just thought it was crazy. I know he had 160 his first game, and yeah, it's probably the money play as well. But I guess this is a little bit of where you go into talking about how you don't jump on players because of the points they scored last week. Because I know form means a lot, and you can't just always go off this. But his break even tonight was 114, so he didn't reach that. So he's going down money. It'll probably be 600k, and ever since that's 160. His average has slowly come down, 130, 104, and now it's at 90. And, Melbourne's not going to be easy next week either. They have mids that take a lot of the ball. And then, Sydney, also another hard game, and Gold Coast, another hard game, and then Port, another hard game. It's like a really hard run. Like, even Essendon aren't easy. And then Geelong. At this point, if I was looking at Walsh, I'd probably try and get him at this Richmond game. Because the run from there, Richmond, GWS, Dogs, North, like that feels pretty good. Like the Dogs game, obviously not the best for mids. But after that, like seems pretty decent, and you'll kind of get a look. And it's actually the Port Adelaide games at Marvel, so that's probably better for him. And then they get Collingwood again and Hawthorn and West Coast. So yeah, I won't mind him as a last, round 15 trade, maybe, depending on how he's going. But yeah, you'd be annoyed that his points dropped so much if you had him. And Harry Mackay might be one that we're looking at in our forward line because he's averaging 106 and he's gone 92 again tonight, and he probably could have gone more if he didn't miss one out of bounds or miss one pretty badly from about 30, 45 meters out. But he has been very consistent, so we're probably going to have to think about him because we don't have much down there. And for how long can we just look the other way from him is the question. Because he just seems to be playing so well and be quite a presence down there. So pretty decent option. But I'm thinking, and I think Scott Butler brought this up in his video, that we're going to need a F7 that we're looping. And it's probably going to be like Mackay who's going to be that loop, because the Carlton will probably play a lot of early games. And he's the type of player who can get a 120 or even a 90, which seems to be good enough. Like, that's what I'm happy with Rankin, so I don't know why you wouldn't be happy with it with Mackay as well. Um, going down from here, Cripps had a very poor game. I was actually thinking about him as a bit of a pod player, but decided against it because of previous experience with Patrick Cripps, and I'm very glad I did go with that. Previous experience that he has big gains, but he also he can drop these 68s pretty frequently. And I'm very glad to not be on that ride. If you held Williams, it'd be very frustrating for him to see him injured and subbed, because he was on 68 at the end of the third, and he looked like going at an 80 at least, especially with the way that game was played. So that would be very frustrating. And it feels like a clear trade out, because I don't think he's met his break even now either. And then, if you had Kerno in your forward line, well, this is his, key forward down game. Not much you can say else about that. Otherwise, I think Cowan is on the bubble next week, maybe? Is he? Or it might have been this week he was on the bubble. I reckon it was this week. Yeah, so he was on the bubble this week. So it's annoying. Yeah, the scores are pretty middling, so I think it's fine to pass up on him. It was pretty hard to pick him at 200k when he's scoring that. I should just close that now. And then who else have we got? Chincotta. Chincotta got a 62. I think this was his first game back. Yeah, he's 308k anyway, so he's not worth looking at anymore. But so there's no real rookies coming out of this team either. They didn't really have any injuries either, other than Williams. So I'm assuming they'll expect Sard and stuff back in a couple of weeks. So not much else to talk about here. So going to what I'm doing with the team. So considering everything, so I decided to VC Dawson, which was just because I was there and I just wanted to watch him hopefully go off. And it was looking really bad. I was like, I'm probably the VC options for me weren't the greatest. I mean, like, hindsight Dacos, but I thought he might cop a tag from Hewitt, so I didn't really want to go on that anyway. Dawson was more of a potty VC, and if I could get it done on the Thursday night, then I would like to get it done on the Thursday night. I don't think Heaney is the best option against GWS, because I don't know, GWS are like good, and I feel like they'll have a plan for Heaney, because they won't just let him run off and do what he wants. Then it was Sheasel, but there is talk of Sheasel getting more midfield run, which is not as good for his scoring. And then it was like Gawn. So I was like, well, I'm going to VC Gawn. I can't VC anyone past this Melbourne game, because I'd have to watch the first 40 minutes of that game and then go, all right, I'm going Gawn, which actually, like, realistically, you could have done. But I'll just take the captain on him. It's either him or Sarong. I'm pretty happy to probably just go with Gawn, because I think a lot of the team's going to be VCing him anyway, and if he has a down game, I guess that's what we take. But I don't know, I'll probably think about it a little bit more. I don't know whether I want to go with him or Sarong. As I discussed, Meek's not going out. I'm going, and with Sweet only going 74, sorry. So I want to keep Meek. I kind of want to keep Power with them dropping midfielders, although I think there's being a bit overbaked about the fact that Lazaro was dropped as a midfielder as well. He didn't play much midfield last week. It was all forward flank. Like, I don't think he got much midfield time. Phillips, yes, that makes a difference, and Phillips looked actually bad. There was one handball that I was just like, oh God, who the heck did that? And it was him. So they've got Fisher back in the team, who's named forward. Bakircha is named in the midfield though, and I think he'll be named back. Like, their team sheet's just a mess. So I'm not completely sold on not trading Power, because I'm going to lose a lot of money if he goes like a 40 again. It's going to be like 40k, which puts him under probably what I paid him for. But a lot of people are keeping him. So I guess it's the trade-off of, does a guy like Wilson score better? If they didn't play each other, I'd probably hope to see What Wilson scored. What Wilson scored, and then go with Pal after that, but they play each other, so I guess that's where we suck. So I'm trading out Lazaro because, he's losing money now. Even though I like him as a player, he just seemingly is not. He's like on that fringe 23, 24 player group of players for them. So that tells me I'm a lot more sub coming and no price movement. And it allows me to keep power, which I don't know if it's the best decision, but we'll be reevaluating that next week. Maybe I go power up to someone next week, like a lead or something. The annoying part is I can't really afford anyone. So Stewart's currently in the team. I'm not fully sold on that. I was just playing around with it to see what I could do. But it's likely we could go someone like, we can afford Miller, but that's like at the peak, which, I mean, it's not the worst, but he's probably my second choice Gold Coast midfielder. After that, it's pretty bare. Like LDU could be not bad. I'm decided against Parrish. I could go Fife and just go like that forward player, and then like 426 is a lot to pay for Fife. So, but they have Richmond as well, so it just seems like one of those ones that's really falling into place. So I don't know. I'm really really stuck on this one because Cripps was an idea, but yeah, the 68 ain't great. Well, it's definitely no good. Neil, he's just too old, and I don't like picking Brisbane players. There's something about him. So that really only leaves Duke, who's at the top of the money, Anderson, who's 582, and then like Trucker's 594. Kelly, I don't know if I can do it to myself. Kelly, Brayshaw. At least I know he's going to get mid-time Brayshaw. Let's have a look and see season stats. He's not been too bad, but he does have these lower games. I guess like the West Coast one let he get absolutely dominated. Let's go to DFS and have a quick look at Brayshaw while we're here. So Brayshaw is second in their CBAs, which is good. He just doesn't get as much of the contested possession, and also probably has a lot worse usage. What does Fremantle's run like? So Richmond, St Kilda, not bad. Richmond, Sydney, St Kilda, I should say. Collingwood at home, so that's not bad. Then Melbourne Dogs, not the worst run. But these are hard last two games there. They do have the good bye, so that's something to think about as well. Butters probably was the go really here. See, like, I wonder how much money Rosie's going to lose. Jesus. Oh, God. He is losing so much money. That's like 50, 60K. He's going to be like 5'10". He could be a target once he comes back from injury. Yeah, God. Then it's like Warner, don't really rate that much. So is it like, do we just go someone in the midfield? Forward line, sorry. Or do I just go Stewart and just lock that in now? I mean, Bolton's here, but he's got a high break even, I would suggest. On 25. Not bad, not good. Yeah, there's just like, I don't know, there's not much. Parrish, I'm kind of, I don't want to pick players that I feel like I'm going to regret. Like, I get a good couple of weeks, but overall won't be great. And I feel like that's what Parrish falls into. I mean, going real risky would be Clayton Oliver, thinking he's got it back together. But the 120 break even, everyone has scores, well, I could always go him next week. So, kind of, and Geelong's not the best matchup, so we'll leave that. But yeah, from there, like, there's not much in the forward line. So, I know it's a real hard year. You kind of got to pay up for the good mids. I'd really love to get Merritt, which was the original plan with Pal out. Just can't find the money. And I don't like more. Do not want more. This is just all crap. Like, so bad. Even, Kerno, high average, went bad. Like Mackay's the only one who actually went decent. We're going to be looping these rookies for a long time. Forward line's an absolute mess. Maybe I'm just going to stick with Stewart. It just seems to be most value at the moment. Even though his average is break even's quite high, you know, he could probably get a lot of ball against Melbourne. What are we realistically seeing his money coming out? So he's 95, break even 138. So projected 95. He'll lose another 20, but he could reach this 138. So he could go to 502, say 40k, 38k, but the points on field's probably worth it more now, isn't it? I don't know. We'll stick with Stewart for now and then we'll reevaluate. I think tomorrow I'll probably be doing some deep thinking, but don't be surprised if this moves and Lazaro's back in the team and I go Merrick because it's bloody hard to pick him at the moment. So, or even Took. Maybe I just go Took. At least Took hasn't really put in stinkers. Sorry, this has really been a really all over the place video, but I'm trying to figure this out with you guys here. Bucco's get North a week after this as well. But these two games are pretty hard. Then it opens up. Still not the best. They have North twice though. And Took's in quite a few teams. He's like 25%, 24% of teams. One to think about here. What's Stewart in? He'd be in not as many because he got probably traded out when he got injured. 20%. Oh, that's not too bad. All right. Well, I think I'm going to leave that here then because I'm kind of just rambling at this point. But yeah, the trades currently, I'll just quickly go them. So it's currently Stewart, Rogers, and Sweet for Williams, Cadman, and Lazaro. But Stewart could well become someone else if I change my mind. But hey, at the moment, I'm going to stick with that and see how it goes. So, in saying that, thank you for subscribing. Had a few new subscribers. Really happy to see that people are enjoying the videos and getting something out of it and deciding it's worth subscribing because it's good to have some more people watching. Otherwise, hopefully your weekend has started well. Hopefully some of you got on day costs as a VC and you can just sit back and relax now. Trades are all locked in, but for me, it's not so. So without saying much more, thanks for watching again. We'll see if I do some post-match stuff tomorrow. Maybe not. See how I feel. But otherwise, we'll leave it there and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.